Welcome back to the channel, The Daily Scoop. Today we're diving into one of the most talked about and unsettling media segments from The Daily Show, a piece that examines two highly charged topics: the sprawling growth of documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump saga, and Megyn Kelly's controversial commentary on what does and doesn't count as pedophilia. This script will break down the coverage, analyze the implications, reflect on the commentary style, and explore why this conversation still matters so deeply. The goal is to give clarity without sensationalism and a grounded perspective on a topic that often sparks intense emotion. Let's get into it. The segment opens by highlighting the sheer volume of newly released records connected to the Epstein case, around 20,000 pages of court documents, testimonies, and related materials. The number alone is meant to shock, not because quantity equals guilt, but because it demonstrates just how extensive the legal history, allegations, and associations surrounding Epstein truly are. The Daily Show uses this number not simply as a fact, but as a rhetorical tool to ask how something with this much documentation remained hidden or unaddressed for so long. It's a reflection on system failures, institutional power, and the way certain people remain shielded from scrutiny. Much of the commentary focuses on the fact that Donald Trump appears in these documents, though the show emphasizes an important distinction. Appearing in documents does not automatically equate to criminal wrongdoing. Public figures, especially wealthy ones, appear in legal documents for all kinds of reasons, but The Daily Show uses Trump's past statements, public interactions, and social ties with Epstein to raise questions, not as accusations but as points of concern. The script walks the line between commentary and caution, urging viewers to distinguish proven facts from speculation. The complexity of the Epstein case makes it easy for misinformation to spread, so the show tries to ground its remarks in what is public record. This includes flight logs, party attendance, and social acquaintanceship, which are factual. What remains unknown or unproven is treated as such. In a world where headlines oversimplify and political echo chambers distort everything, this kind of nuance is important. The show even jokes about how extraordinary it is that one person could generate so many pages of legal paperwork, from criminal charges to civil suits to depositions, but the humor is used to make the subject more accessible, not to trivialize it. Parallel to the Trump-Epstein commentary, the segment also dives into Megyn Kelly's recent statements concerning the definition of pedophilia and whether certain individuals accused of misconduct technically fit that label. The Daily Show responds to this by pointing out the danger of splitting hairs in ways that minimize harm. Whether misconduct involves minors of different ages or falls into different legal categories, the show argues that shifting focus away from the moral gravity of the situation is a distraction that serves no one. One of the essential points they highlight is how public figures can shape public understanding. When someone with a large platform argues over terminology rather than condemning the abuse itself, it risks reframing the conversation in a way that muddies the moral and legal clarity. It becomes less about protecting minors and more about technicalities. The Daily Show presses on this idea that clarity should protect the vulnerable, not shield the powerful. Megyn Kelly's comments create a moment that the show uses to critique media discourse more broadly. The issue isn't merely her specific argument, but the pattern where debates over definitions overshadow the bigger issue: abuse, accountability, and the power structures that enable such abuses. When a public figure refocuses the conversation onto semantics, it can indirectly create sympathy for the accused instead of prioritizing the victims. That tension is the heart of The Daily Show's critique. The segment also reflects on how these conversations intersect with politics. The Epstein case isn't just about one man, it's about the circles he operated in, circles filled with influential, powerful individuals across various industries. And because some of those individuals have political impact, the conversation inevitably veers into political accountability. But The Daily Show tries to maintain balance by reminding viewers that political affiliation isn't what protects people. Power and wealth are. The institutions that failed did not fail because of partisan favoritism, but because they often protect the elite across the board. From there, the segment expands into a broader discussion of how society treats allegations of misconduct involving minors. The show notes that when allegations surface, they are often filtered through tribalism. If the accused aligns with someone's political camp, they may feel compelled to defend them or downplay the seriousness of the claim. This pattern creates a warped lens where moral judgment becomes conditional rather than consistent. The example with Megyn Kelly is used to illustrate how commentary can inadvertently contribute to this problem. What makes The Daily Show's approach compelling is that it blends humor with seriousness. The show jokes about the absurdity of the situation, like how 20,000 pages is longer than the instruction manual for modern society, but the humor has a purpose. It helps an audience face material that would otherwise feel overwhelmingly grim. Humor becomes a gateway to understanding, a method to reveal contradictions, and a mirror that exposes the strange ways society handles uncomfortable truths. The host also underscores a central idea: the difference between association and wrongdoing. Merely appearing in documents doesn't automatically imply guilt, and the show acknowledges that many public figures had social interactions with Epstein before the full extent of his crimes were publicly known. But it also questions why so many powerful people, even after troubling details emerged, continued to benefit from his network or ignore red flags. It's not an accusation, it's a reflection on the culture of power and access. The conversation about Megyn Kelly includes the same nuance. The show doesn't claim she supports wrongdoing. Rather, it critiques the language she uses and the implications of her argument. It suggests that her focus on terminology rather than the broader outrage could unintentionally diminish the seriousness of the issue. Throughout the segment, The Daily Show hints at a deeper cultural problem: how society often prefers simplified narratives even when the truth is far more complicated. People want a villain they can point at, a hero they can praise, or a clear, cut explanation. But in cases involving institutional power, misconduct, and legal complexities, simplicity is rare. The show encourages viewers to resist the urge for easy answers and to engage with the complexity instead. The script also reflects on why stories like this keep resurfacing. It isn't just because of the salacious details. It's because these stories reveal cracks in systems we're told to trust: legal systems, political structures, media institutions, and social hierarchies. When people feel that powerful individuals operate under different rules, cases like Epstein's become symbols of injustice. And so, each new release of documents renews public interest, frustration, and introspection. The segment touches on another critical idea: the role of transparency. Without transparency, the public cannot evaluate truth for themselves. But transparency requires responsibility, not misinterpreting data, not spreading unverified claims, and not filling in gaps with speculation. The Daily Show tries to model this balance, acknowledging what is known, clarifying what is unknown, and questioning what deserves further scrutiny. Then comes a reflection on the political environment. In today's media landscape, stories involving public figures quickly become weapons, used strategically rather than ethically. Accusations get thrown around not because people care about justice, but because they want to score political points. The show calls out this behavior, arguing that it distracts from the real victims and real issues. If misconduct becomes merely another partisan battle, no progress is made. The script also emphasizes the importance of consistency. If society wants to protect minors and hold perpetrators accountable, then outrage cannot be selective. It cannot depend on who the accused is. It cannot depend on what team someone plays for. Consistency is what creates moral integrity. Without it, every argument becomes hollow. The Daily Show, despite its comedic framing, ends up presenting a message about responsibility. media responsibility, public responsibility, and political responsibility, commentary should encourage clarity, not confusion. Public discourse should prioritize victims, not offenders, and society should recognize that no one is above scrutiny, regardless of status or affiliation. One of the strongest points the segment makes is that calling out misconduct isn't political, it's human. Defending victims isn't partisan, it's right, and transparency isn't optional, it's essential. These principles should apply universally. The show criticizes moments where these principles are bent or abandoned in favor of convenience. The commentary on Megyn Kelly becomes a case study of how language shapes perception. A technical distinction, even if legally accurate, can still be ethically harmful when framed in a way that reduces moral urgency. The Daily Show challenges viewers to consider not just what is said, but why it is said and what effect it has on the broader conversation. As the segment continues, it shifts back to the Epstein documents. The sheer amount of information serves as a reminder that the truth is rarely simple, and that understanding the full scope of a case like this requires patience. It requires sifting through facts without jumping to conclusions. It requires avoiding assumptions while still demanding accountability. The Daily Show urges viewers to remain vigilant without becoming conspiratorial, to remain curious without becoming reckless. The script also comments on how easily the public becomes desensitized. Scandals blend together, outrage becomes routine, but the show encourages viewers to resist that emotional numbness. Even if stories repeat, the stakes never diminish. Real people suffered real harm, and real systems failed them. The story isn't just about the individuals involved, it's about understanding how to prevent the same failures in the future. In analyzing Megyn Kelly's comments, The Daily Show shows how shifting the frame of discussion can influence public empathy. When conversations become more about defending an accused individual than acknowledging the trauma of victims,